Right, so I read you first came up with this idea back at university.
Yes.
Is that, so it's obviously been with you some time, is that quite a common thing for you? Do you have like a little book of ideas and things jotted down sort of across the years that you think this could turn into something one day?
That's exactly what I do. I just make notes of ideas. Like, I go, ooh, this sounds like a good idea for a film. This one was like quite detailed. It was about a page or so. Sometimes I check my notebook and it makes no sense. And so I don't even know. It was probably the most genius idea I had, but now it makes no sense. So I came up with that back at uni and wrote it down. And when after Under the Shadow, my first film, revisited the notebook and came across it, and I was like, oh, this is something interesting to explore. Yeah.
So how is it quite similar then to what you maybe envisaged all those years ago?
No, the core of it is the same with the young guy versus an older man from the establishment, and but in the original idea, he was a photographer, loosely based on the character from Antonioni's Blow Up. I was like obsessed with that film as a young film student, but after revisiting it, I changed it. I thought it would be much nicer to make it a graffiti artist, make them a graffiti artist. Yeah.
So was this at the Harrow campus at Westminster?
Exactly.
Because that's where I went as well.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh man.
They've actually got me back lecturing now, and I'm an idiot. So you should offer your services. I mean, they'd like you to go and teach the film students.
I think that's where you look familiar. When did you graduate?
2009 or so. I can't.
I graduated 2005.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
just ahead of me. But I loved, obviously, as someone who's obviously spent a lot of time in London and from London, I mean, I love the juxtaposition between the affluence of London with the more rougher edge. Because for me, that's always been London to me. I always think that kind of, you can walk down one street and you have this kind of like lovely huge houses and canals, and near it can be sort of that sort of less side. I just wondered if it was keen to capture that side of the capital, the way that we sort of, the affluence and the kind of more rougher edge kind of live side by side.
This is why London is so brilliant. Like you said, like one street is just very posh and like with mansions, and then you turn around the corner and it's more working class. You turn another corner, it's more middle class. So and I think the key thing was to capture. We didn't want to make it like a postcard version of London. We want to make sure that like we're on the ground looking at London like most Londoners. So that was like the plan, and has so much to offer this city, especially for a new noir film. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the words Hitchcockian is used a lot when people make sort of thrillers. I wonder, is he a conscious influence, or when making a British thriller of this nature, is his imprint in this kind of genre and in British cinema so strong that he's kind of sort of woven into the fabric of storytelling, whether or not he's a kind of conscious influence?
Well, for this film, he was a conscious influence. I mean, I set out to make a Hitchcockian neo-noir thriller. I would say that, like, actually one of my things was that Hitchcock is from Britain, but these type of Hitchcockian films now these days rarely get made over here. Americans do it really well, and in Europe and France, or even like Far East countries like Japan and South Korea, they do it. So I was like, I want to bring back those sensibilities. I want to make a Hitchcockian thriller set in London. So yeah, it was a pretty much conscious decision. Yeah.
I was also about the casting. I mean, it was kind of casting against type to a degree. I mean, it's a role we've not seen George do before, really. I mean, it's quite different to what we usually see Hugh do. Yeah. Is that quite an exciting thing for you, to have that kind of ability to surprise audiences and cast people in roles that, might not be roles we would usually associate them?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's part of the fun. I mean, with George, to be fair, George is a type of actor who tries anything and everything. I guess like he's done like Captain Fantastic, who's more rebellious, or been the Kelly Gang film. So, but with I knew I always wanted George to play Toby, and with Hector Blake, I was very stubborn with my choice when it came to Hugh Bonneville, because, like you said, he's never done anything like this before, and very brave of him to take on this role and like wanting to do something new, because people don't expect him to play such a role.
Yeah, I mean, what did you see in Hugh that made you think, there we go, I think we might have our psychopathic murderer?
I don't know, he's such a lovely man in the real world, and I'm a big fan of his films, like Paddington 1 and 2, and obviously his comedy shows. I that was exactly the reason I thought, like, he can also, actors with comedy background, they have this amazing ability to be more versatile for some reason, and like even like tap into the dark side. And Hugh is very funny, so I wanted Hector to be this sort of charming Englishman with hiding a dark secret, and I thought like he's the last person people would expect to have certain dark secrets. So yeah, that's what we went for.
I quite liked as well. It was quite unique, but there was the characters would be watching TV, and I know it sounds weird but you don't actually usually see what they're watching. And I love the fact that there was Rick and Morty in there and the Great British Bake Off. That was quite different. Did you have to? How did you sort of? Were you quite keen to ensure that those shows were actually shown? It wasn't just them watching telly, and you actually imbued it into the story in some way.
For sure. I mean, Bake Off was in the both. I mentioned specifically what I wanted on TV for both shows. Bake Off was the specific one that ended up in the film, because there's something interesting about Bake Off. I used to watch it with my ex, and like it's such a cozy thing, sitting at home watching people making cakes, having no idea what horrors are happening outside. And with Rick and Morty, originally it was meant to be something else, but that specific episode of Rick and Morty, the themes that it explores, it was really relevant, and I'm very glad we managed to get that. So yes, it was important for me to get that episode. Yeah.
You much of a baker yourself?
Not at all. No. I need to give it a try, actually.
So how different, I mean, you mentioned Under the Shadow, how different an experience was it making this compared to that? Because obviously going into that, a bit of an unknown sort of quantity, quite unproven in kind of filmmaking, and it was so well received and did so well sort of critically that, did you go into this, did it feel different? Did it feel like the experience of making that second movie was, or not second movie, but the kind of the third movie was different to that?
I think it's funny, to a certain level, you get like obviously slightly bigger budget and more known actors, but at the end of the day, filmmaking is all about challenges and problem solving, and no matter how bigger it gets, it's still the same issues. You need to make your days. You need to so in some ways it was very different, and like there was like slight more luxury. In other ways it was exactly the same. If that makes sense. So
what would you like sort of to do next? Because in the sense that you get it used to feel a bit like there were kind of blockbuster filmmakers and the more sort of indie filmmakers, but now if you look at the kind of worlds of Marvels along the big franchises, they're dipping in and taking, like Colin Trevorrow once was making sort of small indie films. Do you have ambitions or harbour any ambitions to maybe try your hand one day at a big studio film?
Sure. I mean, look, I'm a nerd. I watch anything and everything from massive blockbusters to art house films, so and because I'm a nerd, I'd love to try different genres and different types of movies. So I'm very open, except maybe not rom-coms, because I'm not romantic or funny. but except for that, like I think, I love to try different genres. Why not? Yeah.
So just funny, have you got an idea of what's next? Have you dipped back into that little black book of ideas?
That's interesting. Yeah, I have a few projects, both in film and TV, and sort of the various, points, in terms of development. So, within it's film industry, so film and TV industry. So it's just like waiting to see which one the stars aligned, which one which one the stars will align, so that I get to make them and get a green light. So we shall see. But I love to do a sci-fi. I love to do more like straight drama. Just a few things that I'm juggling.
Well, if you do make a big blockbuster, just try and get the Bake Off in that as well.
I'll try my best. Yeah.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. Much appreciated. Thank you. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey.